this off. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Sinke, Chief Bittrex Officer of Bittrex Global, and the host of our video AMA today. We're featuring Zenfin, and our guest is Billy Sebell, known by the community as Billy Adams. He is the head of ecosystem development. So, Billy, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, the Bittrex Global team is excited about our partnership with Zenfin, and we're here to learn more about the Zenfin digital contract XDC, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, so correct me if I'm not.
No, it's perfect.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So for our AMAs, we typically source questions from our community and the broader crypto community. And so a lot of these are coming from our community. If there's any questions that I have along the way, I'll dive in and go a little bit deeper as well. Because if I like to know a little bit more about something, I'm guessing there's at least one viewer out there that does as well. So let's dive into this list and see what they want to know about Zenfin. And actually, before we do that, to kick things off, we always like to ask a little bit about the origin story of our guests. So I'd love to hear from you how you got into crypto. When did you buy your first Bitcoin? How'd you get involved with the Zenfin project?
Sure. Yeah. So, well, I had actually really first learned of Bitcoin back in probably 2013 or 2014. Although, admittedly, I didn't really pay too close attention to it, and really got into the actual into Bitcoin itself in 2018, right after really the real drop in the market, where I thought that was an opportunity to kind of enter in. And I just played around a little bit with Bitcoin and some other tokens. And in February or March, I had learned about Zenfin and got really interested in it because my background was actually manufacturing. And I have spent a lot of time dealing with trade issues and challenges in capital markets. And so I was really attuned to what they were doing, really like what they were doing. And the focus on trade finance, invoice factoring, and those types of instruments really interest me. So I at that time, got really involved with the project from a community standpoint. Got to actually meet the founders in November of that year of 2018, and from that time, got more and more involved in the community, and then eventually, in February of this past year, I joined the Xinfin team as head of ecosystem development.
Can you tell us a little bit about the background of the Zenfin team and the genesis for the project?
Yeah, so Atul Kakade and Ritesh Kakad founded Zenfin in 2017. The idea behind what they were doing really went back much further. Well, into 2016 or back into 2015. Atul had been involved with, very involved really with leading the charge with Monetago India for a blockchain integration for fraud prevention. And it was a pretty significant integration, implementation that was going on. And so, from that really origin, they had gotten together and, taken, the kind of the enterprise focus or that Ritesh had, he was working with enterprise software and, looking at what the experience was with fraud prevention. They really looked at what would be the best way in which we could create a blockchain that would allow us to really focus on the things that enterprises are looking for and solve those issues. And so that's where Zenfin really came up with the network, the XDC network, and the idea behind having a hybrid network, which is private and public. So you have the best of really kind of both worlds, where enterprises can operate on the private side, and we have the ability to then relay limited information from the private side to the public XDC network, where you're having the immutability take place.
And what about the name Zenfin? Where'd that come from? What's the story there?
Yeah, so the exchange infinite was really, the two words behind it, in the name behind Zenfin itself. And so, the idea really was they were really looking to create an exchange of value between enterprises really across the globe. And a lot of, at the time, there was a large focus on the gap in infrastructure financing and, really bringing, financiers, buyers, and suppliers together. And so that was really, where the kernel of that name really started. And since then, we've really, I'd say, moved that needle a little bit more into trade finance over time, just naturally looking at, what the market was asking for, and kind of pivoting as as the project has developed. And now we're really in the middle of really what's happening around trade finance at an enterprise level with blockchain.
And how do you explain Zenfin to somebody in an elevator? And like, what's the elevator pitch for somebody that's not involved in blockchain at all? It's like got no
Right.
experience with it.
Yeah. So I mean, we really, I would say, we're an enterprise level blockchain that is also a smart contracts platform. So we really, we're EVM compatible. Anything that runs on Ethereum can run on, our network. So we're a layer one, and we're launching layer twos, similar to what you see on Ethereum, with, say, an Oracle, as an example. And so really we're a smart contracts platform that has a great ability to, take advantage of the enterprise needs, in the marketplace, where we can really do the smart contracts at the privacy level that allows the institutions to really transact the way they need to. And with that, we can have anything developed on it, from those smart contracts to NFT marketplace.
And then moving back to how you would discuss it with people that are familiar with blockchain, what does the roadmap look like for Zenfin over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months?
Yeah, so we have been very development heavy on a number of different levels. So, from the protocol level, we've been working with a number of blockchain scientists to develop a forensics model for really creating a highly secure and scalable network. And that's something that we're doing to really focus on not just the retail side of things, but also, what enterprises really need when they're looking at, working with the blockchain. So we have smart contract development with the smart contract tokenization platform. That's the platform that we actually used for our first trade, or financing of trade assets with trade tech, and which we turned into an NFT. And so we tokenized those trade assets, with that platform. And that platform is really is a white label platform that enables us to really look at a number of different use cases and adapt it for those specific use cases. And so that's a main, component of what we've done. And with that, we're looking at moving from that first NFT to security tokens, and then the launch of a stable coin that's like backed by trade assets. And that would really be the first stable coin of its kind, like that. And so that's actually what we're focusing on that side, where we're looking on the retail side as a number of different platforms that are in development to make it easier for any project to really launch on chain. So we've launched recently a whole new group of SDKs, and with that, we have a MetaMask type applications called XDC Pay that allows people to really easily interact, with those applications. We have an NFT marketplace that's really a short form video marketplace, and we're launching that in Q1 of this coming year, and we've been hard at work at that. We have a brand new Explorer that we're putting out there as a white label Explorer, which will be what we consider to be a platform that will help other coins, really launch on our blockchain, but also we can customize that for any chain. And there's, in this space, there's not a lot of, or I should say, development is challenging. So it's challenging because not only does it take time, but there's been a lot of growth in the network arena here, just across the board with cryptocurrencies, and there's a lot of demand, for blockchain engineers. And so we've worked really hard to build a real strong team of developers who are really working on a lot of these platforms for us. And so we're really trying to position it so that one, these applications are really when we build them, we look at what's out in the marketplace and how can we do something beyond what's there. And then if you actually want to have an explorer in this space, it's actually a very difficult thing for a lot of people to do or develop it on their own. So a platform like that can be white labeled for any chain coming on the network. And then we have a roadmap, XDC roadmap.org, that has a list of a number of different products, or developments that we have. And we have actually another 20 plus, components on the roadmap I can't get into, really right now. Those are things that are going to be launching, moving forward, and they're going to be more retail focused applications, as we move forward.
And I think you might have already touched on this quite a bit, but the next question I have from our community is around the technical side of network adoptions. So I see you've adopted delegated proof of stake. And can you talk a little bit about what XDPoS is and hybrid networks and why you guys adopted those and how that's all structured?
Sure. Yeah. So, the delegated proof of stake is, there's a few things about it that I think are, kind of led us to it. So, where the XDC public network is a fork of GoETH. And so, with that, we wanted to look at certain modifications that we would make that would allow for security and scaling and speed, which are really, the three hardest things to incorporate into any type of blockchain that you have. It's easy to have a couple of those, but having all three is really, much more of a challenge. So we were really looking at, how we could make this happen and, what we could do, and also having the network be decentralized. So we had set this up from really from the beginning to really try to build speed. And so, we're 2,000 plus transactions per second. And the nodes that are currently running on the network are around roughly 200. Each node requires 10 million XDC. So, we have, 2 billion coins that are, because of these nodes running, are actually staked and locked to the network. And so with that, we have really, looked at it from the standpoint of how do you have a chain that is both, energy efficient and also, that it's on top of that, that it's scalable, as I said, and fast. And so that's really been the focus with the delegated proof of stake. And the other thing to note is that, we're from a standpoint of security, we have a new forensics white paper that we had recently published where, we're looking at, how do you, create greater safety and security on the network. Our network, as opposed to, traditional, say, network that requires, or it would require a 51% attack. We actually have modified that so it would need 75% of the nodes in order to really be able to do anything within the network. And our forensics are really looking at how we can, stop that at the time that a node actually starts to, really create some type of misbehavior. Should someone get a hold of one and try to, disrupt what's going on in the network.
We've got another technical question here from our community, which is, as the project goes on, there's going to be many upgrades to the mainnet. Does the Zenfin team plan to deploy a one-click node upgrade to facilitate deployment of updates? That's a question's a little bit over my head. I'd love to understand exactly where they're coming from, and hopefully that makes sense to you.
Yeah. Well, definitely, when you're looking at nodes and you're needing to do an upgrade on the network, and we do have one that is coming up, there is a procedure or protocol for doing that. And so, yeah, we are always looking to try to make this as simple as possible in what we can do. And yeah, I mean, if it's something that somebody is running individually right now on their own system, it's there may be a little bit more involvement in loading down Docker and doing the network update on that system. And that's actually, so I'm not I'm not the technical guy to really like answer that question from a detailed perspective on like what the steps are in order to make this happen. But the idea of having a one-click installer is something that we've actually already created with the network itself, and there are ways of doing that. And so for updates, we'll continually work to really make that simpler and easier for anybody who's going to be having to do that upgrade.
Well, let's talk about the XDC token, which is the token that you can buy and trade on Bittrex Global. Have to give a plug for the market we opened for you guys.
Of course.
Yeah, and so talking a little bit and getting into more detail on the XDC token, can you talk more about what its role is, what the utility value of the token is in the ecosystem, and anything else that comes to mind as, in terms of how people are using it today?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, it's a utility token that we use, to power our smart contracts platform, or transactions on the network. And so, it's pretty simple. It's used as settlement, in the trade transactions or within any transaction, and as gas, for those transactions that are happening. And so it can also be used for liquidity on the network.
And so you mentioned you're a fork of GoETH. And so did you make any modifications to the structure of the token, or is it's pretty much the same in terms of?
Yeah, so I mean, the token itself is really, when we forked the chain, I mean, the XDC token is not so really that dissimilar from what you would, I think, find on Ethereum. At one point we did actually have an ERC20 token that was tradable, one for one with the XDC mainnet token, and we eliminated that within the last year and really focused strictly on XDC itself. But I think you would find the behavior of it is actually nearly identical to what you would find on Ethereum. The difference is a prefix of XDC, for instance, on our addresses.
And what are your thoughts on things like GameFi, NFTs, and of course the thing that everybody's talking about at the moment, which is the metaverse? Do you have any further plans to integrate these things into the XFin ecosystem, or open them up on the layer one?
Yeah, I think Web3 is a big focus of what a lot of people are doing. It's not any different for what it is we're trying to do. I think from GameFi, a lot of these platforms that are out there, I think are great in that they are bringing retail users together on the network, or a lot of different networks. And ultimately the question is going to be, I think, about how do these networks really come together and interoperate with each other. And that's a focus that we really have in what we're doing, is how is it that we don't really view say other networks, as an example, as competition. If we see an NFT marketplace that's out there that we think what they're doing is interesting, we're going to look at how we can connect with them, and how we can interoperate with them. So I think we're really just seeing the tip of the iceberg around NFTs and GameFi, and a lot of these areas, and more and more are obviously going to continue to develop. But I think that the opportunity in what can be done in trade with NFTs is pretty tremendous. I think there's opportunities with ESG, which is also a large focus that we have as a network. And I think that there's obviously a lot of places just in terms of like art and commerce that you can tokenize with NFTs and really take advantage of being able to move from chain to chain or within a chain in order to maintain value, show ownership, and all the benefits that you have from having an NFT.
And how decentralized is the project today? How many nodes are there? What does that look like?
Yeah, so in total, we've basically earmarked a total of 300 nodes that we would launch. That would be 108 master nodes, which are validators on the network, and then 192 standby nodes. And currently, right now, I think we have about 199 or maybe 200 nodes running. So that's 108 master nodes, and the balance, being the standby nodes.
And I think that leads into my next question, which is around security. How does Zenfin ensure the safety and security of its users? How do you guys kind of prevent, I guess, are you susceptible to 51% attack as a delegated proof of stake network? I guess in a different way, right? You have to have 51% of the supply of tokens in order to do that. But can you talk a little bit about security?
Yeah, so 51% attack would be 51% of the nodes, right? So, if we have 200 nodes, you need slightly over 100. And so, we have changed that, as part of our protocol, or, increased that number. So you would need to have 75% of the nodes in order to, actually, complete an attack on the network. But as I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, we have a team of blockchain scientists, PhDs, who have been working on updating us at the protocol level, with adding forensics. So it's really a matter of like bringing in a sheriff and a judiciary where the network itself, is able to monitor what's going on with individual nodes, and with those nodes, if there's any nefarious activity that starts to appear on any one node, it's identified immediately, and that node can immediately be slashed. And the penalty for doing something where that activity happens is that you're going to lose potentially the tokens that are staked to that actual node. And so at this point, with 10 million XDC required for a node, that's, I think right now it's about it's $1 million that you're going to lose if you try to do something. So if you think about it, in order to get a hold of 75% of the nodes that are out there, it's a significant sum of money or value in the network. And I think it would be a pretty uphill battle for somebody to really be able to do that. But again, we're working with the forensics that this has not actually been implemented until now. And actually, we just announced a release of Andromeda, which is the next version of the protocol that's being updated, with this forensics involved, and that's coming up, with the end of this quarter, in 2021.
That was actually going to be my next question. I'm glad that you answered that, because I was a little wanted more clarity on a couple of things, and one of them was how do you actually acquire a node if 75% of the nodes are needed to overthrow the network and take control? What's the bar for actually getting a node? And thank you for answering that, because in delegated proof of stake, you've got to have stake, right? And not just
you got to have a stake.
Nodes. Yeah.
Well, if you want to get a node today, you need $1 million.
All right.
So that's the first barrier. That's the first hurdle. Yeah, right. Exactly. That's the first hurdle. And and there was a time actually you could have gotten that for $5,000. Not too long ago.
When was that?
Probably, I guess, in maybe July of 2019. You probably could have done that, and probably sometime not long after the drop in price in Bitcoin on March 15th. back in 2020, you probably could have gotten something for about 7 or 8,000. But yeah, we've had significant growth in the network in the last year, and that has really changed the game for the master nodes themselves. And with that, we had staking options for smaller amounts, for community members who are looking to stake. And this is one of the things that community members are always looking for, which is like, when are there going to be staking options? And so we've been looking into a number of different options around that, in conjunction with what it takes to actually run a node. And so we've looked at ways in which we might be able to incorporate smart contracts, or other solutions that would allow for someone with a much smaller stake to be able to come onto the network and actually earn some rewards. The nodes itself, a standby node earns 8% annually, and a master node earns 10% annually. So it's a very sustainable model that we've developed. And the idea behind running a node, at the heart of it is really about how do you support the network from an enterprise level. And so we have enterprises and businesses coming on board that are looking to run a private subnet, and the ability to do that comes with setting up a node and operating a node. So, and I should say also, just technically speaking, like we said, we do have one-click installers, and we do have service providers that can help, with the setting up of a node. So it's a matter of funding your wallet and transferring to the node itself, and then staking and locking those coins to the network.
And where do you see XDC in the future, say in 5, 10, or even 15 years from now? How are people going to be using it?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunities for exchange in what we're doing. One of them just being, with the network speed itself, the ability to transfer very easily to each other. It's pretty much instantaneous when you do send it. I think if you actually were to do like a speed test as an example, and you started to look at what it takes, for different networks to send tokens or coins from, person to person or wallet to wallet, you would see that the XDC is incredibly fast, the network itself. So I think that there's a lot of room for just remittance around the token in time. It's not a main focus of what we're doing now by any stretch. Our real focus is working with enterprises, or I should say our main focus really has been working with enterprises, so that we're creating facilities or the tech stack for them to be able to take invoices and factor them on the network. So we're bringing together originators who are bringing businesses onto the network. It could be a manufacturer of TV or clothing, anything that needs to be produced, and they're looking for funding. And we're really looking at ways in which we could say, instead of having a business have to, bring product in from another country, where they then have to find a local bank that's willing to take on the risk of the purchase, and then they have to connect with the bank in the origination country. And you have a lot of pieces that are going on between all of these different banks that are have to correspond with each other. We're looking at how do we eliminate that from the transaction itself, and make it really simple for an investor or a business to connect with an investor. And we're the first chain, in partnership with Trade Tech, to actually take a group of invoices together as a pool and finance the pool on our smart contracts platform. And so we have standards and redemption time, and we have all of the different scenarios that would come up in trade that are handled within the smart contract itself. And so it's something that has never been done by another chain, as far as where we've seen, not just a one-off trade, but an actual ecosystem in itself, where we're continually able to bring the origination together on the business side, and also the investors on the other. And so that creates DeFi opportunities that I think are going to continue to develop over time. And I think you're going to see with our, on some more retail side, our NFT marketplace, which is a short-term video format, is a real opportunity. It's really been created for influencers to be able to take advantage of sponsorship opportunities that could be out there with brands. And so, we're working to really find a very simple way in a robust marketplace where influencers can simply make money, even if they're not a massive or very, very large influencer, where you have hundreds of thousands, or you need to have hundreds of thousands of followers in order to really get any kind of recognition from a brand. People who are skilled or talented in being able to create content can actually create this content, and the marketplace itself will give the brands themselves that are out there an opportunity to see what's available and be able to actually buy that content as an NFT and use it for their advertising. And so we're actually very close to partnering. We actually have a opportunity that we've been working on that will partner with a fairly high profile, we think, opportunity to really take the platform itself and put it into the hands of brands, of some major brands. And so, we're really looking at expanding what we're doing, and some of that is through sponsorship. And that's something that we plan on really being able to launch sometime at the end of Q1 of next year. So we're really excited about it. It's actually a really big opportunity, and we're always looking at how we can actually take the technology that we have and put it in the hands of people that can actually really make a difference. And so that's what we're really trying to do.
Speaking of all the influencers and people connecting and getting involved, how can community members around Zenfin and Bittrex Global get involved in the project? What's the best way for them to directly get involved?
Yeah, so it's actually pretty easy. I think the interesting thing, and maybe something people don't really know about the network or what we've been doing, is that essentially 90% of the people who are working on the project right now are community members. I started in 2018. There are other community members I've known since that time. We just got involved in the different social platforms. Telegram was one of them, and we have a Reddit platform, or a Reddit group. We used to have an official XDC Telegram group. We don't really operate that anymore, just because Telegram can be a challenging environment to work in terms of keeping the community safe from people that want to impersonate team members. So we've really stayed away from that. But there are unofficial groups that are out there that a lot of longtime community members are part of. And when people are involved in those communities, we do take notice, and we're always available. Anybody can reach out to us in the community. I get people reaching out to me on the daily basis, asking me about ways in which they might be able to get involved, or just pointing something out to me and just communicating to me. So we are community members, and we treat everybody who comes to us as what we call the Zen fam. That's really what we are. We've been a family from the beginning. And so any one of these social platforms, and even what people do on Twitter, as an example, we have a pretty vibrant community on Twitter, and it's another opportunity where people reach out to us. And so there's a lot of options that people can do, and where I think Chris, as you were talking about from a decentralization, I don't know if I completely answered the question. One of the things that we're actually working on that we will have in the next 1 to 2 months is a voting platform that we're developing for the community. And so we're working on evolving the governance model to be able to bring, inclusion, within the community to everything that's going on. But we do have a fairly, large group of community members who are really kind of at the core of looking at, what is it that we're trying to do, and in having, a feedback mechanism. And so it's really not too difficult in order for people to do that.
Well, thank you, Bill, for joining us on this AMA today. I think we learned a lot about Zenfin and the XDC token. I know I sure did. Even though I've been familiar with you guys for a long time, it's still learned a ton about what you guys are up to and where you're going. And I think it's safe to say we're all really excited about this partnership and the future of Zenfin. So thank you again for joining us today. And if our viewers want to learn more about XDC, go to Bittrex Global and trade it, or go to www.xinfin.org. That's XinFin.org. And thank you again, Zenfin.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. It was great to be here.